Hi, my name's Ian. I'm 68 years old and we've been living on Chemong Lake here for about the last 20 years. I'm a geographer by training, physical geography and recreation geography, so I've never met a drumlin or an esker that I didn't like. I've been working in the field of conservation for about the last 40 years. I've been retired for the last 4 years, but while I was working I did things like the Oak Ridges Marine Strategy for the Toronto Region Conservation Authority, the Waterfront Trail Planning and Development Guidelines for the Waterfront Regeneration Trust, the Oak Ridges Moraine Trail Study for the Oak Ridges Moraine Trail Group, and a number of other trail activities as well. I've helped over the last 40 years raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for conservation activities and efforts, and I currently volunteer for about 4 nonprofits, including the Kawartha Land Trust. My wife and I are avid canoers, cross-country skiers, campers, hikers. I like to fish and I like to hunt. I do both of those with a strong sense of conservation in mind. When I retired 4 years ago, I was looking around for something that could perhaps use some of the skills I'd learned in the last 40 years of work, and I saw a newspaper article about the Boyd Island area and also about the Kawartha Land Trust, and they were looking for some help, and so Sandy and I volunteered to come out there and clean up some campsites and some fire pits. Well, we went out there, and lo and behold, imagine my surprise when I see the executive director of the Kawartha Land Trust, Mike Hendren, getting his hands and feet and everything else dirty with the rest of us as we cleaned up this island. That was my first pleasant surprise. The next one was the fact that all of these staff and volunteers that were helping at this thing were like-minded. We all loved the outdoors, loved nature. We didn't mind getting our hands and feet wet and dirty. And of course, we had a great time enjoying the snacks. My favorite was the salt and vinegar potato chips. I support the Kawartha Land Trust for a number of reasons, but you should know how deep that support is. I support it with my energy, my sweat. I support it with my ideas, and I also support it with my money. I'm a volunteer, I'm a monthly donor, and I've left something in the will to the Kawartha Land Trust as well. The best part of all of that is knowing that it's actually going to do some serious work for conservation in the natural landscapes in Kawartha country. When I eventually pass on, of course, my first thoughts are to my family. So I've made sure that I've provided for my family, children, and grandchildren in the will. But I've also made sure that there's a provision to support the things that I believe in, the things that made a difference in my life, in my community, and in my country. That's why I've left a gift in my will to the Kawartha Land Trust. And I'd like to share with you how I did it. I call it the 3% solution. Now, for my annual giving, I just work out what I make a year and multiply that by 3%. And that's how much I usually donate, sometimes a little more, to my various charities, including the Kawartha Land Trust. Leaving a bequest in my will, I use the same 3% solution. So 3% goes to the Land Trust, and that leaves 97% for my family to enjoy after I've passed on. Now, I encourage you to follow my lead, and there's a good reason I'll get to in a minute. The threats to our conservation lands are serious, and they're present, and they're now. From development interests, and they're just going to get more and more intense, and from the lack of action on the part of just about every other conservation land-based organization in the country. Quite frankly, if we don't step up to the plate and save our remaining large green spaces, nobody else will. And that's a fact, a sad fact. I've worked with dozens of conservation organizations over the years, the last 40 years, and I can tell you nobody can maintain their properties like the Kawartha Land Trust. Now, why is that? Because the Kawartha Land Trust has an endowment fund. Nobody else does. That endowment fund allows us just to spend the interest on the principal. The principal stays forever. We just spend the interest. That formula alone guarantees us success for generations to come. And it's a magic formula as far as I'm concerned. When we take over a natural area, it's maintained forever. The governments can't do that. They can't guarantee it. Conservation groups can't because their funding is so variable. The money I've left in my will is actually going to the endowment fund. It's that important. My experience with the Kawartha Land Trust is one of the things that's changed my life, and it's changed it for the better. I can tell you that my decision to support the KLT is a journey that I'm enjoying thoroughly, and I invite you to join me in that journey as a volunteer, as a supporter, and of course as a donor, to help protect the lands that we all love in Kawartha country forever. See you on the trails.